Hey everyone, welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. This episode to be studying a piece by the multidisciplinary artist known as Johnny Darrell using Midjourney. And in this episode, we'll be talking about symmetrical balance, and we're also going to talk about the immense influence and impact of Tron. So let's jump right into it. So whenever you first see this work, remember this highly futuristic room here. It just strikes us instantly, and you wonder what exactly we're looking at here. Quite a strange sight. What you'll notice, of course, our perspective is placed in perfect center here, so that places us in kind of perfect alignment with the scene at hand. We see, primarily light on dark accents, really contrasting and defining the form of our scene here. What's so interesting is in the realm of color, you see this kind of very faint blue with this orange, right? And so most of this is going to be what appears to be a gray, but it is a very, very light blue. And blue placed with orange are going to contrast each other quite well. So always going to draw the eye and bring us within the work at hand. Another thing you may notice is the impact of texture. Most of this feels quite smooth, right? We see this all across the composition. Anything that relates to kind of screens or any type of interface like that, that is primarily what we're seeing here. What you may notice is a faint, kind of rough or rocky texture in the background, but that's definitely not the central element of the work at hand. Another thing you may notice is the near symmetrical format. So we see this, like I said, replaced in perfect center with the scene at hand, but this is a near symmetrical scene. Of course, it's not perfect. Of course, this definitely throws it off compared to this side. We do have pretty close to near symmetry, but the overall layout of the composition at hand is symmetrical. When you see elements of symmetry, it's almost always going to give a sense of order, a sense of balance, or a sense of harmony. So if you look at this work and it feels, balanced in some way or another, that's really what we're looking at here. It's quite interesting. The aesthetic here really reminds of the digital genesis. We go back, of course, the 70s, 80s, and definitely the 90s, what we refer to as the digital genesis, where the internet, so many different technology is really combining, of course, the home computer, so many different things that really created the modern world that we live in today. So with this in mind, whenever you look at this work, what do you see when you view this piece? Pretty interesting question that we may ask. So the work before us here is actually inspired by Tron. So Tron is an incredibly impactful video game as well as movie. And so this was really in 1982 when it first saw its major release, and of course since then it's go on to impact and influence so many different mediums and so many different styles. So we see this quite stunningly here, right? And so at that same time, or not really at the same time, about 10 years before, Alejandro Jodorowsky, a director, pitched his idea to turn the Dune novel into the Dune movie, but ultimately that was not fulfilled. But when we look at Alejandro Jodorowsky, we see this kind of psychedelic surrealism. I do have some pretty good examples here in a second. What I want y'all to remember is the idea of psychedelic surrealism. And so what we're looking at here is Johnny Darrell actually took, inspirations from Alejandro Jodorowsky and, seeing a conceptual design of what he may have created when he creates a Tron movie. So it's quite interesting here. We love to see the inspirations, kind of the influence of that as well. So I'm going to take in a bit other screenshots of what Johnny Darrell created. We could see just the aesthetic we're working with here. So we're going to do that real quick, see what we can learn. Alright, so I brought in some other generations that Darrell created to really look at the aesthetic that we're working with here. So, of course, you see the influence of psychedelic surrealism quite distinctly. What you also see are these older machines being revived as well. So, what would it look like in the 80s, for example, if we created an incredibly futuristic version of the Tron movie? It's quite interesting. You see just these vivid, especially in this color palette, like we said, you have that light blue and you have that orange, and we see that really making its mark through so many different scenes there. We see that there. We see this incredible, symmetry as well in that composition. Incredibly futuristic, of course, native to the Tron series. Yep, we see a kind of light cycle there as well. Incredibly futuristic. The impact of kind of neon light is not to be understated here. It always catches the eye, and it does a brilliant job in really immersing us within the Tron world. Of course, with Jodorowsky's incredible psychedelic surrealism style, we love to look at those. We love to study that as well. Really good work on Darrell's part to kind of create this idea and see what exactly this would look like. This, of course, has gone quite viral. People love to see these inspirations, the imitations, or say generations created and explored by this aesthetic. We absolutely love to see it. All right, so after looking at those, you can get a pretty good idea of what exactly we're working with here. It's so interesting how AI generative art can explore different concepts such as that. If you're a novelist, you're someone writing a novel at the moment, you could use Midjourney or any type of AI art to see, what your character may look like. There's so many different applications and different uses of AI generative art programs. So that's just one way that we looked at that today. Of course, Tron, incredibly influential, incredibly impactful since 1982, really has gone to, say, inform a lot of sci-fi art, a lot of the digital genesis that we saw going even further than that. So really hope y'all enjoyed today. Like I said, this was created in Midjourney, one of the AI generative art programs. So really a pretty good one if you want to get into AI art. I'd say that's one of the best you can get into, the perfect mix of power and accessibility that y'all can check out. But yeah, really hope y'all enjoyed today. If y'all did enjoy this piece, go check out the original artist Johnny Darrell and, of course, the original director. This is inspired by Alejandro Jodorowsky. But other than that, really hope y'all enjoyed today. We talked about so many different things, from this digital aesthetic, the impact of Tron, symmetrical balance, the impact of color, so many different things we touched on today. I really hope y'all enjoyed. My name is Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see y'all on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.